In August of 1898, a parcel arrived at a house in Dover, Delaware. It was a box of chocolate creams from a shop in San Francisco, and it had come 3,000 miles across the country. With it was a short note in a woman's handwriting, unsigned, suggesting the sweets were sent by a friend. It was addressed to Mrs. Elizabeth Dunning, who was staying at her father's house with her sister and her small daughter. They sat on the porch that evening and ate them, and they passed the box to other people who were there. Elizabeth Dunning and her sister, Mrs. Joshua Deane, both died within about 2 days. The others who had eaten fewer of them were very ill and recovered. The chocolates had been treated with arsenic. Elizabeth Dunning's father was a former congressman, and the family was well connected, which is one reason this did not go unexamined. Her husband, John Dunning, was a newspaperman. He had been in Puerto Rico covering the Spanish-American War. When he was shown the note that came with the box, he recognized the handwriting immediately. It belonged to a woman in San Francisco named Cordelia Botkin, with whom he had been having an affair for about 3 years. San Francisco, California, to Dover, Delaware. August 1898. A woman in San Francisco whose lover had gone back to his wife. A wife in Delaware who had never met her. And her sister, who had nothing to do with any of it. The crime was committed in one state, and the deaths occurred in another, and nobody was certain who could try it. If you are new here, this is Cold Case Redemption. This case is quiet, and it is one of the coldest things on this channel. Subscribe and stay with me. John Dunning was a journalist working for the Associated Press in San Francisco. He was married to Elizabeth Pennington, the daughter of a former congressman from Delaware, and they had a small daughter. Cordelia Botkin was in her 40s, married, living apart from her husband, and by every account, sociable and confident. They met around 1895, by most accounts at a public bicycle rink, and the affair went on for about 3 years. It was not discreet. Dunning drank, gambled, lost his job, and was living openly with her. In 1896, his wife took their daughter and went home to her father's house in Dover, Delaware. Then the Spanish-American War came. Dunning was hired as a correspondent, sent to Puerto Rico, and he wrote to his wife saying he intended to come back to her. He told Cordelia Botkin it was over. That was in the summer of 1898. 2 anonymous letters had already gone to Dover that summer, telling Elizabeth Dunning things about her husband's life in San Francisco. She had not replied to them and had shown them to her family. Then, in August, the box of chocolate creams came, with the friendly, unsigned note. The women on that porch had no reason to think anything of it. Sending sweets was an ordinary courtesy. When both sisters died, the surviving box was tested and the arsenic was found. The note, the parcel wrapper, and the earlier anonymous letters were compared, and John Dunning identified the hand. Investigators traced the chocolates to a San Francisco confectioner, and staff there remembered the sale and the customer. A pharmacist recalled selling arsenic. A handkerchief in the box was traced to a San Francisco shop as well. And then the case ran into a problem American law had barely faced. Cordelia Botkin had never left California. The women who died had never left Delaware. The only thing that crossed the country was a parcel. Delaware wanted her and could not compel California to hand her over on the facts as they stood. California tried her, on the reasoning that the act was committed within its jurisdiction, and the consequence merely happened elsewhere. It is one of the earliest serious tests of jurisdiction over a crime committed by post across state lines, and it is why lawyers still know this case. She was convicted in December of 1898 and sentenced to life imprisonment. That conviction was overturned on appeal on technical grounds, and she was tried again in 1904. She was convicted a second time and sentenced to life again. She served her sentence at San Quentin and died there in 1910. John Dunning gave evidence at both trials. He had to describe the affair in open court, twice having buried his wife. He was never charged with anything, and there has never been any evidence that he knew what she intended. The Dunning's daughter had eaten none of the chocolates. She was raised by her mother's family in Delaware. Here is what is honestly established. The chocolates contained arsenic. They were bought in San Francisco, and the note And the earlier letters were in the same hand. Established. 2 juries, 6 years apart, convicted Cordelia Botkin on that evidence. And the motive, as far as anybody has ever been able to establish it, was jealousy of a woman she had never met, 3,000 miles away. Here is what I keep coming back to. Elizabeth Dunning had gone home to her father's house with her daughter after a bad few years, and her husband had just written to say he was coming back. And her sister, Mrs. Joshua Deane, was on that porch for no reason except that she was visiting, and she died too. 2 women, 1 box of sweets, and a note from somebody they thought was a friend. This case was solved twice, in 2 trials, and it changed how American courts think about jurisdiction. If this one stayed with you, share it, and say the names of the 2 women on that porch. Subscribe to Cold Case Redemption, a new case every week. I will see you in the next one.